And I'm going to give you the little setup to this excerpt. Marisol's heist trio of escorts are Jody, Kim, and Taisha. Her extended team includes her assistant, Serena, who doesn't know about the heists. The following chapter takes place toward the middle of the book in early February as their financial situation has become extremely precarious. One of the women on the heist team is intercepted during a carefully planned robbery. Marisol does a graceful job of extracting her without arousing suspicion. However, the mortgage payment is due in 2 days and they don't have another heist set up. Marisol and the team are left to improvise, and the clinic will face foreclosure if they don't get the money. So Marisol is heading back to the apartment building where the previous heist had gone wrong. Marisol hustled out of the subway and down the icy street near the uptown apartment building. The snow had melted a bit, then frozen after sunset. In front of her, a trendy young woman in high-heeled ankle boots nearly slipped. Marisol walked carefully in her soft-soled shoes that made no noise on hardwood floors, didn't squeak on carpet, had shallow treads, and didn't leave prints. Her assistant, Serena, was sick with the flu, so Marisol ended up having to drop off a grant proposal en route to the apartment building. She hated mixing clinic business with heists, but the rest of the team was booked up. She entered the apartment building lobby in a gray jumpsuit. She had on tinted safety glasses and no makeup. Taisha had cornrowed Marisol's long hair into a coil that fit under a short auburn wig. The doorman let her in and she strode straight to the elevator, ignoring the security guard. Once the doors closed behind her, she pulled a gas company vest and a hard hat out and hastily put them on along with latex gloves. When she arrived at the 17th floor, she sent the elevator up to the top as an added precaution. Standing at the apartment door with the lockpick, she looked up and down the empty hall. The couple that lived there would just be ordering dinner. Her heart beat hard as she fumbled with the lock. Finally, the tumbler clicked and she was in. Closing the door behind her, she could feel the razor edge of anxiety subside, but adrenaline continued to pump. The door opened into a large living room decorated in a Middle Eastern theme with marble floors and Persian carpets. The furniture was dark wood with velvet and suede upholstery and shades of rust, brown, and beige. Marisol passed a side table with a sand-colored dish that looked something like she had seen in a museum as a kid. Her fifth grade teacher explained that it was a terracotta incantation bowl from Mesopotamia called the Devil Trap Bowl, and it was over 1,500 years old. Supposedly, her teacher explained, people put them near the doors of their houses to keep demons out. Marisol had wished she could take it home. Years later, she had come across another Devil Trap Bowl in a gallery. She considered buying it, but didn't have the $1,000. In the light from the bay window, Marisol could see that the owners were apparently using this one as an ashtray. A cluster of cigarette butts and salt and pepper ash sat in the bottom amidst the Aramaic writing. Moving further into the apartment, Marisol crossed the living room into a hallway. She flipped on her flashlight and looked into each of the rooms, finding a large bedroom on the left and a study, a dining room, and a dining room that led into a kitchen on the right. According to her research, they had a safe, but when her girl Kim did the call, the guy hadn't left her alone at any point to look around. A ringing sound made Marisol jump. She spun around to see a phone flashing on the hall table. As she let out her breath, she slipped into the study, a dark room dominated by a large, cluttered desk. The phone rang several more times as she slid her hands behind two rural landscape paintings and wooden frames. The machine picked up. "Thanks for calling," a woman's voice drawled from the speaker. Marisol felt behind what looked like some sort of diploma in an oversized frame. "Sorry, we can't get to the phone right now." Marisol got down on her knees and shone the light on the desk. Could they have a freestanding safe? "Meredith?" a woman's voice echoed in the hallway. "Meredith, it's me. Pick up if you're there." Marisol crawled across the study floor toward a low cabinet and let out a sharp cry as she stuck her palm on a thumbtack. "Fuck!" She sat back on her knees, peeled off her glove, and sucked on the heel of her hand. As the woman's voice began a gossipy rant about some mutual friend, Marisol dug a spare glove out of her bag and put it on. She flashed the beam of the light onto the floor to make sure she hadn't bled onto anything. Standing up, she pocketed the tack. She walked carefully around the desk and swung her flashlight beam from the low cabinet to the files. No safe. "To be honest," the woman's voice bleated on, "I'd be pissed about it if I wasn't so worried about her." Marisol crossed the hallway. It had to be in the bedroom unless it was a floor safe. She glanced around at all the Persian carpets and prayed not. I'm coming to you because it really isn't my place to ask her, the woman's voice droned on, but I need to know if she's losing it because I don't want her pulling out at the last minute. Marisol stepped through the half-open bedroom door. In the center of the room was a king-size canopy bed with dark wood and beige fabric gathered at each bedpost. Marisol felt behind the wall hangings on either side of the room with no luck. Above the head of the bed was a large painting. She kicked off her shoes and climbed onto the bed, kneeling in front of it in the dimly lit room. The canopy fabric cast additional shadows. She could only make out the vaguest image of a desert landscape, Sahara style, with a vast expanse of brown sand as she slid her hand behind the painting and felt the seams in the wall that outlined a small door. Standing up on the bed, she lifted the painting off the hook to reveal the safe. She set the painting carefully on the bed beside her and opened her briefcase. In the dark, she had to fumble in the briefcase to find the stethoscope. It's probably not appropriate for me to even be telling you what happened, the voice on the answering machine went on. Anyway, call me when you get this, okay? At last, the machine beeped again, and silence settled onto the thick stucco walls and into the heavy carpets. Marisol took a deep breath to hush the jackhammer of her heart and gently tapped twice on the door of the wall safe. She put her stethoscope to the door and slowly turned the dial, the pads of her fingers pressed against the slightly serrated surface of the cool metal as she turned it carefully to the right, waiting for the first sound of the safe's 3-click reply. She relied on the ritual of the 2-beat, 3-beat call and responsive clave rhythm to guide her conversation with the safe. The safe whispered the first click in her ear. As she turned the dial to the left, she could feel the pull of the latex where the blood was sticking her palm to the glove. She had just heard the second click when another sound sent a spasm through her body. She froze, one hand gripping the dial, the other clenched on the stethoscope and strained to listen. Through the open bedroom door, she could hear the faint jangle of keys and entering footsteps. "You're drunk, Meredith," a man's voice. Not tipsy, not buzzed, drunk. Marisol couldn't make out the words of the woman's voice, only the whine of protest, girlishly high and petulant. A light snapped on, bathing the bedroom in an ambient glow, leaving Marisol clearly visible. She tore off the stethoscope and shoved it into her pocket. She grabbed the painting and hastily hung it back up. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she shoved her feet back into her shoes and snatched up her bag. "I don't care about the Colemans," the man's voice was saying. "I'm not going to sit through dinner with you and act like you're fit to be out in public. Now why don't you go sleep it off?" Marisol had left the bedroom door ajar. She crept over to it and peeked out, blinking at the bright light in the living room. The man had his back to her. He was pulling off a thick coat in staccato movements and sliding a cap off his bald head. He tossed both of them onto the back of the chair without taking his eyes off his wife. She was facing Marisol's direction, unsteady on her high wedge heel boots, a thin scarecrow in her tasseled dress, waving slightly in the wind. Marisol saw the insolent look in the wife's eyes. The two of them didn't seem to be moving anymore, just scowling at each other. The woman suddenly spun on her heel, heading for the door. "Where the hell do you think you're going?" the man asked, stepping after her. Marisol ducked across the hallway into the study. "To get my phone," the woman said. "I never got any fucking dinner. I'm ordering takeout." Marisol watched from just inside the study doorway as the woman rummaged through a basket of menus. The man stood over her, glowering as she dialed the phone. Marisol slid the Con Ed hard hat out of her bag and put it on. The woman put her finger in her ear and said hello as the man continued to tower over her. When she turned away from him to order, they both had their backs to Marisol. She slipped out into the hallway and opened the dining room door wide, taking half a step back through the dining room doorway and snapping on her flashlight. "Hello!" she called, pointing the flashlight into the hallway. The apartment was just big enough. The kitchen was just recessed far enough. She might be able to play it off. "What the hell?" The man wheeled toward her. "I'm calling 911!" The woman blinked several times and pressed buttons on the phone. "Sorry to startle you folks," Marisol said, forcing a tone of calm into her voice. "Feel free to call, but we already alerted them about the gas leak." She walked over to the couple and shut off the flashlight. "We checked out the units above and below, but I don't know why your upstairs neighbor smelled gas. I'll have the boys check the line, but I couldn't find a thing." She strode right up to them and stood close enough to smell the liquor on the woman's breath. The woman hung up the phone, but the man continued to seethe. "What the hell are you doing in our apartment?" he demanded in the same tone of condescending outrage he had used on his wife. "How did you even get in?" "The security guard let me in," Marisol said, shrugging and putting the flashlight in the bag. Dante was asleep at the desk downstairs," the man said. That must have been the urgent business he had to go take care of. Marisol said, rolling her eyes, "So I'm done here unless either of you has been smelling gas. Have you smelled gas?" she asked as she eased past them toward the door. "Wait just a minute," the man said, taking her arm. "Don't put your fucking hands on me," Marisol said. "I'm just trying to do my fucking job. And if your gas lines are as bad as your security, it would serve you right if your damn apartment blew up. You should be fucking thanking me." She strode past him, careful not to rush with the bluff, but her entire body was coiled to spring into flight. Her hand was on the door, and she was turning the knob when the wife giggled and spoke. "But our range is electric," she said in a high voice. Over her shoulder, Marisol could see the split second when the man's face transformed, his eyes widening with comprehension and fury. He pushed the wife aside and lunged towards Marisol. She swung the door at him, and it knocked him back. She was 2 steps ahead of him running out the door, but he leaped after her and tackled her in the hallway, grabbing her at the knees. As the two of them fell, she twisted her body so she wouldn't be face down. He fell on top of her and attempted to hit her in the face, but the blow glided off the Con Ed hat. Marisol didn't even notice. The pressure of his large male body on her chest brought a spasm of memory, a bile in her throat that tasted like stale grease cafeteria lunches. The rage and revulsion swept through her every nerve and muscle, taking command of her limbs. Involuntarily, she let out a howl of rage and swung the flashlight with all her strength. It knocked him in the side of the head. He grunted and slumped down across her body, his chest on top of her abdomen. Blood gushed out onto the carpet. Marisol wriggled out from under the unconscious man, shuddering, her stomach threatening to heave. "See, Steve?" the woman shrilled from the apartment. "I'm not that drunk. I knew we had an electric stove and you didn't, you arrogant bastard." Marisol ran down the hall. The last thing she heard as she tore open the door to the stairway was the woman's high, girlish voice calling, "Steve? Steve?" Marisol ran out the front door. She could barely feel the ground under her feet as she passed the dozing guard and the doorman blinking against sleep. Out on the street, she felt the jagged rattle of adrenaline in her limbs. She breathed in the night air and the urge to vomit subsided. She should never have done the job without backup. Someone to watch the mark, make sure they didn't come home early. Taisha had class tonight Taisha had class tonight, and Jody and Kim had a call downtown. Even with a cold, Serena could have sat in a fucking taxi and washed the front door. Serena, the girl was loyal. She wouldn't have asked any questions. Marisol should have asked anyone, even some homeless fuck on the street, anyone who would see a drunk woman being escorted from an upscale midtown restaurant and text her a warning. The mortgage was due tomorrow. She had hit a man and left him bleeding, and she didn't even get the money to save the clinic. The image of the man flashed into her mind again, his chocolate brown suit, blood on his bald head. Marisol looked around the dark street and spotted a payphone. She dialed 911. "How can I help you?" The dispatcher sounded almost bored. "Yeah," Marisol said in a fake voice, careful to have no accent. She gave the address of the apartment as her own. "I heard something weird on the 17th floor through the stairwell. I thought it was just a couple arguing, but then I guess I heard a thud, like someone hitting the ground. I don't know, something just sounded wrong." "All right," the dispatcher said. "Your name?" "Meredith," Marisol said, saying the first name that came into her mind. "Meredith Coleman."